Yeah. That's good. Send it back to school.
Somebody needs a white screen.
Do you guys want to sit down? There's seats in here, so there's plenty of seats. Okay, you sure?
Yep. All right, thank you.
It's easier to escape out there when you don't have to walk through the crowd. I know. In fact, if you can sit here, I'll sit here. We can just walk.
Okay, and then.
Then I'll just sneak out.
Yeah, I didn't have it either. I had to. Okay, I have nothing.
I got it for my charitable, but I've got nothing for.
I'm just scratching.
I haven't made anything for the part one, and I don't know if they know. I would like to. And I have to make it all. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I can't figure out.
Yeah, I fixed that.
I know now. I just don't know people were. Nothing's been easy the last 6 months.
Hey, I'm on the end tonight, so I can't make any motions, seconds, so that all relies on you tonight. You know when you're on the end, you keep your. So you have double duty tonight. Thank you. Remember last time you second? So, no, I'm just saying. It falls on you.
I'm like that.
But still though.
I'm going to call the meeting to order here in just a minute. If I have any citizens here wishing to address the board during citizen comments, there's a sign-in sheet on the podium. About 1 more minute, we'll get started.
Who's writing the equation to Steve? There's one on it.
Well, we'll move it.
Wait. They know we had
All right, now we'll call the November regular meeting of the Tipp City Board of Education to order. Tonight, the pledge.
We have some students from Mr. Seifert's class, and I'd like to introduce our students that will be leading us in the pledge. We have Janice Braley, David Alvarez, Everett Mellencamp, and Parker Suchel. We'll stand, and I'll invite everybody to stand. The students, when they're ready to lead us, we're going to start.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job. Appreciate that.
Nice job. Thank you, Karen. Great
job. Thank you, Karen.
Try to stay out of trouble. Trying to fly below the radar for a little while.
Please call roll, please.
Mr. Spano?
Present.
Mr. Venter? Mrs. Dahl?
Present.
Mrs. Dunaway?
Here.
Mrs. Heatherly?
Here.
All present, sir.
Thank you. All right, we're going to start out with committee reports, and Russ Gilmore, our representative from the Miami Valley CTC, is here to give us a report. So, Russ, please.
Thank you for inviting me as appointed Tipp City Board representative to the Mount God Curriculum Knowledge Center. And each month I submit a report to the board for their information regarding the board meeting. Once a quarter I'm going to stand up before you and try to summarize some of that and give you some more information. Just from a background standpoint, CTC has been around for 47 years in our area and is dedicated to workforce education in the Miami Valley. During that time, the staff at the CTC has assisted thousands of high school students to develop the skills necessary to become the next generation of highly skilled employees. And we desperately need those in our community. Additionally, CTC specializes in career training for adults as well as an adult diploma program for adults aged 22 and older who wish to obtain their high school diploma. Miami Valley Career Technology Center provides career training for over 5,000 high school students and nearly 5,000 adults each year through on-campus and satellite programs. CTC serves 27 school districts in Dark, Miami, Montgomery, Preble, and Warren counties. Current on-campus enrollment is nearly 1,700 students. CTC offers over 40 career and technical high school programs, many of which offer, upon graduation, certification to enter workforce and earn a living wage. Just as an aside, we have kids that graduate from our diesel mechanic, welding, information technology, and HVAC class that are certified upon graduation, and they get jobs at starting at $70,000 to $80,000 a year. It's a living wage. It's a big deal. Recently, the Ohio Apprenticeship Council approved CTC as an official sponsor for the state of Ohio. This enables CTC to assist local industries with apprenticeship training and assist with the hiring process. This year, 60 Tipp City students are attending Miami Valley Career Technology Center. This is a 42% increase from last year and a 26% increase from the previous 3 years. Our Tipp City students at CTC are currently enrolled in 13 different curriculums, have achieved 100% graduation rate in all but one of the past 7 years, and in many cases go on to college after graduation. I provided a data sheet that summarizes all that. I'm not going to go through that tonight. Our 60 students, just by way of comparison, are 3.5% of total on-campus population. If there are 27 schools that comprise 1,700 students, that means that average per school would be 63 students. So we're average. We could do better, but we're hanging in there. CTC is focusing efforts on increasing satellite programs in many of its member school districts. Dr. Nick Weldy, the superintendent at CTC, and Dr. Greta Kumpf have had discussions about starting satellite programs in Tipp City at some time in the future. CTC has scheduled their annual sophomore open house on Thursday, November 29th. It's coming up from 4:30 to 7. I don't know to what degree you've been informed of that. I hope you have, but the school will be open for sophomores and their parents to tour all 3 buildings, meet instructors, and learn about the 40 career and tech programs that CTC offers for high school juniors and seniors. A complimentary dinner will be served that evening. Additionally, on November 27th through the 29th, they've scheduled a sophomore career day seminar to give students who are interested in attending CTC a chance to spend the day on campus and experience 2 career technical programs that better help students decide which career technical program they may wish to pursue for their junior and senior high school years. I hope many Tipp City students and their parents will consider attending one or more of those events. Finally, CTC is in the final stages of developing a detailed plan for their approximately 500,000 square foot, 100 million plus, it's about 130 million building expansion. It's an exciting project that will provide extensive additional benefits to students attending CTC. Construction on the facility will start in spring of next year. I hope we will encourage students and parents to at least evaluate the CTC option, develop a skill, and then evaluate the possibility of secondary ed after that. Questions, thoughts? Yes.
Did you give any indication of what increased our enrollment? Is it just students being more aware of the programs? Are they offering different programs?
They're not offering different programs. I'm hoping it's awareness. We've been kind of cruising along at 40 or less, and all of a sudden this year it jumped up to 60. So I would guess we're doing something right at the guidance department and increasing awareness.
They probably didn't tell you what kind of programs our students are enrolled in, did they?
Yeah, our students are enrolled
Oh, I see it.
in a number of different programs.
Yeah, it's kind of
I'll just
everywhere.
give you a rundown. 4 in ag and environmental tech, 7 in arts and communication, 3 in business and admin services, 2 in career-based intervention, 6 in construction technology, 1 in education and training, 3 in engineering and science technologies, 9 health science, 4 human services, 7 information tech, 4 law and public safety, 3 manufacturing tech, and 4 in transportation systems. So it's kind of a broad range of different things.
And I was just going to mention that December the 7th, we have a tour set up that is connected to the CTC, and we'll be going to both Northmont and Milton Union to visit their satellite
Great.
programs.
That's great.
So there's a team of us going.
Great. Anything
Any
else?
other questions?
No, thank you for the monthly reports. They're very detailed. And you give us a lot of information, and I really enjoy reading those. And I know that takes a lot of your time, so I just want you to know that those are appreciated when we read those.
Well, thank you. You asked me to go to these meetings, and you need to know what's going on, so I'll try to keep it brief.
No, they're great.
They're great.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is the superintendent's report. Dr. Trump?
All right, just want to start off, we have recently had a professional development session, and that was on November the 19th. And during that day, we had math curriculum opportunities for our staff that recently are working with the newly adopted math curriculum. We also had a chili cook-off, which was very fun for our staff. Each of our buildings had their own chili cook-off, and then we had a district-wide one. And Katie Scott from Nevern Coppic was the #1 choice, and all of them were delicious. So it was a fun, healthy lunch that we had. And then when we rotated, we did a half session for 3 hours, and that group did math curriculum and some other professional development, and then we flipped in the other half then in the afternoon, did 3 hours, and that was with the ALICE training. That's the safety training. And so ALICE stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, or Evacuate. And none of that is in a series. It's whatever the situation calls upon you to respond to. We had a great day, a lot of great learning. There's an online component as well that our staff accessed. And we're talking as a team if we could provide that for one, for those that were not attending on that day, such as our bus drivers, and two, for a community session for our parents to be able to come and be informed about the program and also learn some strategies themselves just for daily living. So excited about that, and just was very pleased with the day. And that brings us up. I'll just also add on there safety drills. Certainly those are underway. That's a requirement by our state that we do 3 of those. Our ALICE training will count as one of those, and then we had one the prior week before our Thanksgiving break. And we'll see if we're able to get one in December, depending on the weather, or we may have to wait a little bit later, but we have another one yet to complete. It does help us train our students and our staff. And we stop and reflect after doing debriefing and really talk about what has gone well, what did we learn from the situation. So I will move on in curriculum. I'll let you give an update.
Well, working on science, so we have a big day on Thursday, the 29th. We're excited about that. We have 12 vendors that will be at the Miami County ESC, and currently we have 14 school districts that are going to be represented. From pretty far away. So I'm excited about that. I'm a little concerned the size of the room isn't real big. It's a little bigger explosion of people coming than I was expecting. So that's a good thing. And I'm excited about the vendors and the opportunities there, and also the opportunity just to network with other districts and what they're doing as well. So that's from 9 till, it starts at 9, and however long it takes to get everybody through and have an opportunity to share with the vendors. So that's happening on Thursday the 29th.
All right, and we have a candidate here this evening.
Oh, yes, we do. We have a long-term sub for social studies at the high school. He's been subbing, he was on the sub list prior to being the long-term sub, and he's pretty well known in the area. He's a Tipp grad as well as his wife, Cassie, so we'll let Luke, tell us about Luke.
Yeah. So my name is Luke Zirkle. Like Mr. Gingrich said, I am a lifelong resident of Tipp City. I graduated from Tipp Community High School in 2010. Went to Bowling Green State University to get my degree in education. After that, I spent some time, I've done some long-term positions at Troy. I also have spent time here as an intervention specialist aide, coach, and I've worked with our kids in this community for about the past 5 years. And then this is my wife, Cassie, and our new baby daughter, Lucy. And we're both super excited to be part of this school district again, and just in this role, getting to interact with our students once again. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thanks.
And just one more thing before we move on would be just highlighting our senior citizen holiday breakfast that's coming up. That's December the 17th, and that's at LT Ball. And it begins at 9 a.m., runs till about 10:30. If you're hoping to attend, and we hope many of you are, December the 10th, we'd like for you to get your reservation in at that time. By then, 669-6307, but you can call any of our buildings, particularly the board office, to let us know that you plan to come. A couple other things I want to just mention that kind of connects that with the community. We have facilities community engagement. We're doing a series of 3. We'll have one in January, February, and March. And our first one in January is January 15th. It's at LT Ball once again, and it's from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. And finally, just a nice piece that you'll see in the quick news is about honoring our veterans that are alumni and graduates from Tipp schools. And we are creating a type of alumni veteran wall that will be unveiled at our graduation, 2019 graduation. So that'll be a very nice highlight, and certainly we welcome our alumni veterans to please, there's a sign-up link that you'll be able to find on within the newsletter as well as on our website. So hope that you're able to do that. If you've ever been part of the LT Ball Veteran Day, you know how much we appreciate our veterans. You know, the other schools do a number of special events, but this will be a great way for us to recognize our alumni, and we would love to do so. And with that, I think that kind of wraps up our report.
Okay.
And I want to thank Mr. Zirkle and Cassie. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
So you're welcome to depart if you'd like. I know you've got a little one, and it's a snowy evening. So
Yeah,
thank you.
Dr. Kahn,
Uh-huh.
may I ask, for the next meeting in December, how we'll be advertising for engagement in January?
Okay. All right. So that would be through our quick news, but also.
You can just tell us in December. Just, because the holidays, there's going to be multiple opportunities and then big breaks in between. So.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, will do. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, citizens' comments. I didn't see anyone step up for the sign-in sheet. President's comments. I believe this is the first meeting we've had since the election. I'd like to thank our citizens in Tipp City for their support in the permanent improvement levy. Going to give us an opportunity to continue to keep our facilities in great shape. So very thankful of that, and wanted to express that thanks. People got out and voted and showed their support, so thank you. That's all for President's comments. Next item is the approval of minutes. We have a set of minutes to be approved, the last regular board meeting minutes. We have a motion to approve.
I'll move.
I'll second.
We got a second, so Corinne and Joe Ellen. Any discussion or corrections? Hearing none, please call roll.
I'm really excited. Mrs. Dahl.
Yes.
Mrs. Heatherly.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunaway.
Yes.
Mr. Spano.
Yes.
Mr. Venters.
Yes.
The minutes are approved. Next item is treasurer's report, starting out with the monthly financial report. Motion to approve.
So moved.
And a second.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Andy and Corinne. Mr. Stevens, would you like to touch on any highlights from the report?
Sure. We're reconciled. That's always good news. It's always good to get that taken care of. Just one thing to point out, if you go to the very last page, or second to last page, this shows where we are year to date. And we have completed 3 of 12 months, so that's about 33%. No, did I say that wrong? August, September, 4 months. That's why it's 33%. 4 out of the 12. And you can see that we're pretty good in all of our categories, just kind of hovering around the 33% or higher for revenues, and some lower in expenditures. So things are going well. Other than that, I have no other business on the financial report. Any questions that I might answer for you?
Hearing none, will you call roll, please?
Mr. Venters.
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunaway,
Yes.
Mrs. Heatherly,
Yes.
Mr. Spano.
Yes, that motion is approved. So financial report is approved. Moving on to the appropriation amendments. Need a motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
I have a motion and a second from Joe Ellen, and a second from Teresa. Anything?
All right. I'll just point out one thing. You'll see a new item on there we might not have seen before, the Devil-Airs. That is the high school Devil-Airs dance team. They used to be one of our accounts in the district, and they left the books, and they were under the boosters, the music boosters, for a long time, and now they have asked to come back to the district and have us be their fiscal agent. This is not our money. This is the Devil-Airs money, but we are just the fiscal agent, just like any other student activity account. Since it's under our books, though, we are in control of what the budget is. So, of course, we approve the budgets as the advisor has to.
Interesting.
Any questions on appropriations? All right, call roll, please.
Mrs. Heatherly,
Yes.
Mrs. Dunaway,
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl,
Yes.
Mr. Spano,
Yes.
Mr. Ventures.
Yes. Motion is approved, appropriations. Next item is the then and now, fiscal year 19 for the month. Need a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
A motion and a second from Teresa and Corinne. Mr. Stevens, anything you want to talk about there?
Just for those that may not have seen it, I did update this late this evening after a discussion with Mr. Spano. He had asked a question about one of the items, and then I went back and realized it was a copy-paste issue. So the items that you have in front of you, Jostens is the new one, and we had removed a what was it? Gym floor.
Gym floor at the high school.
Yeah, at the high school. That was on last year's list. So the one here is a yearbook balance that had come due. So.
What is the Pulsera project?
Bracelets that they can
Yeah.
Yes.
for the Spanish. That's a lot.
So that's.
It does very well.
They made a lot of money.
So this is a deposit.
That is, yes. So
It's not an expenditure.
they've already made the deposit, and then now they're paying the group for the bracelets that came in. So it's an in and an out.
I see, okay.
So
Any other
I
questions?
believe this money goes into the principals fund at the high school and the 018 fund, and then we just pay it out of the 018 fund.
Any other questions? Call roll, please.
Mrs. Dunaway,
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl,
Yes.
Mrs. Heatherly,
Yes.
Mr. Spano,
Yes.
Mr. Ventures.
Yes. Motion is approved. Last item under Treasurer's Report is the alternative tax document. Need a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second from Andy and Joe Ellen. Mr. Stevens, anything we'd like to talk about here?
Just one thing to note, I was recently at a Miami County Treasurer's meeting with the county auditor, and one of the questions that was brought up was the alternative tax document, and whether or not there are some changes in staffing happening at the county auditor's office right now. There's going to be 2 positions that will be resigning in the next year. And one of the questions was, are we going to be continuing to require the alternative tax document? What the county does is they use this information to help with our tax, how much we're collecting in taxes to pay off our debt and things like that. The other stuff, we do a full budget for the next fiscal year, 6 months in advance, and it's kind of, things don't last 6 months. So the county auditor did say that they may be looking into removing the requirements to do this. The Ohio Revised Code does allow county auditors to remove the requirement, and we might end up just turning in tax information rather than a full-blown budget. So this could be the last time we have to do this. This motion right here, or this resolution, is just to state that we will do the alternative tax format, and we will then vote either in December or in January. Before January 15th, we'll vote on an official tax document, alternative tax document.
Any questions? Hearing none, please call roll.
Mr. Ventures?
Yes.
Mrs. Heatherly?
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunaway?
Yes?
Mr. Spano?
Yes, motion is approved. Okay, old business. Facilities discussion. Last week, I guess it was, last Monday, we had a discussion during a workshop about some facilities. We talked and wanted to revisit that topic at the board meeting. So we are here to do that. Dr. Kump, do you want to start some discussion or?
Yes, I'd be glad to. So just kind of want to start that our district's been working closely with the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission, and we are excited to say that we've been able to now qualify for the Expedited Local Partnership Program, which is called ELP. And that's something that is newer for our district. We have been able to confirm that 35% is the share that the state will provide our district, which is the highest, to my knowledge, that has ever been really provided or an opportunity for our district. We've been in the 24% range for a number of years. And so this is exciting for us and for our community to be at this higher range. There was through Think Future, which is a company that helps with enrollment projections. That was a study was made, and we received the results from that, and they interact and work with the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission as well. When they projected up through 2028, which we really were wanting this information so that as we look at our facilities that we really plan for the future as well. We see that there would be an increase of 300 students over that time frame. So that was new information to us. It is something that is projected on paper, but is something that we should be thinking about how we will be able to handle that and make sure that we're looking in that direction. So I know that at our facilities workshop, actually it was just a board workshop, but facilities is one of our main items on the agenda. There was a lot of discussion about the different aspects. Mike Richley came and provided a slideshow for us and had a lot of information. At that time, he showed some configurations that are visual illustrations of what I would call the floor plan, the projected floor plan. And these are things that at our series of community engagements, we will have sections and build upon those different slide series. So I think that is something that certainly the community enjoys seeing. And then Mr. Pfister and I will be actually going out to all of the buildings for their staff meetings, actually beginning the first week of December. And we will conclude that before December break, but we will be sharing aspects about the projected new construction, which would be truly the renovation of LT Ball and the new construction of the additional classrooms there. So that kind of takes us up to, there are various aspects in our discussion at the work session because it is a pretty complex topic. Everything regarding the need for a traffic study. And so, where will we have students dropped off and picked up? Where will the buses be? How will we keep people safe? There's a question, will we be moving off of West Edge? And certainly we will be, so I know that will be welcomed information for those community members. But as we move in the different direction and utilize that, we want to make that as safe and positive for the others that may be surrounding in that area, in the LT Ball and middle school area. So contact has been made this week regarding a traffic study, and we received some information on that. We've had some discussion about surveys, about the need for survey and who might be able to do a survey, time frame for survey. We received information from Wright State University from their research area. Jane Dockery and a team from her have said that they would be able to provide one should we decide to proceed with that. It is something that we would need to move on pretty quickly because all these groups usually have standing needs of other groups that are accessing their service, but right now they have a placeholder for us. A big question is what at this time would we want or need for a survey. I do think that we have really listened to our voters from our last bond issue when we were trying very, very hard to have success there at the Broadway site, but that one did not move forward. But we did find that it seemed like the state funding was a very, very important aspect to a number of our community members, and fortunately through the LPRO program, as well as a lot of work on behalf of Director of Services Gary Pfister and our treasurer and just various people within our district that have been working with the commission, that we feel like we're in a pretty good spot with that. We've had some new personnel at OFCC, and they seem to be forming a nice partnership with us, which is very nice, interested in helping our district and keeping us informed. So I think probably one of the big questions for us this evening is, once again, looking at the timeline and also the bond issue itself. When we would see a bond issue going on the ballot, we are in a situation where the OFCC, that's the Ohio Facility Construction Commission, they are needing to hear from us because there is an additional piece that they would prepare for us, and that takes about a month to do so. So we would need to let them know if they need to be working toward that so that they can get that back to us. As many things, there are timelines. So in order to be on a May ballot, for us to provide the information to them, because they go to a commission for that process of everything moving forward, they would need that for January, which would mean that as a board, there would need to be a resolution for December. So I know that you want to have discussion regarding that, but that is a very important piece. And I certainly would like to hear your thoughts on this. I know that I've had an opportunity to talk with Mr. Pfister and our treasurer, and we really sat down and tried to think hard about what we think would work best for our district. But we also have a little bit of new information that they may want to share, just as we continue to look at the data and also rising costs. One of the pieces I think that for me, looking at the difference between a May ballot or a November ballot, as we look at the rising cost, whether that is now with construction, whether that is with loans. There's a piece of research literature that Mr. Pfister was sharing today with Mr. Stevens and I think within the next 12 months, they're looking at 5 increases, each one at being about 0.25%. So that impacts what we're doing. As we look at this, there are some additional things that become requirements. If from the May time versus the fall time for November, there's different requirements that the state will be putting in place. And so as those new requirements come in place, then we fall under that, of course. It looks to be as much as a $2 million difference. And I do think that's significant. I know that this would be a very expedient timeline between now and May, but I do feel that it's important for our community and our district to make every effort to provide that savings to them if they are ready for that vote. I've also spoken with Mr. Pfister and Mr. Stevens, and as a team, the three of us have verbally committed to one another that we would see this as a focal point, and in order to meet the needs of getting out to the community, whether that's at lunch meetings or whether it's any group that would like to see us, that we would make ourselves available so that we could try to communicate within a group setting with those so that they can have conversation, ask questions as much as possible. So I'll ask Mr. Pfister, Mr. Stevens, important things that I've left out that you would like to add.
I think you hit it pretty well. And the actual increase in cost from May to November is actually closer to a $3 million increase. When you look at the increased interest, the construction cost, they're predicting about a 4% on the low end cost hike on the cost set, which comes out April, May timeframe. So if we go in May, we're on the current cost set. If we go in November, we move to the new cost set, of which we're looking at anywhere from 4 to 6% increase on those costs. As Dr. Cummings said, there are different requirements. If we go in May, the state currently has a moratorium on having to provide a storm shelter. Currently, that is scheduled to expire in September. So if we were able to pass in May, we'd save about $1 million, $1.2 million, by not having to go that route. So it all adds up. I feel strongly that with the momentum we have developed over the past, I'm going to say February, March timeframe when we started our engagements last year, bringing the community along, bringing the board along to the renovations we wanted to do at the middle school and LT Ball, the fruition of those projects, just driving past the middle school and seeing the difference, let alone knowing the infrastructure change that we made in those buildings, I think we've made tremendous progress. Tremendous momentum by doing those projects without having to increase taxes at all, by reallocating some of our resources in the permanent improvement fund. I would hate to see us, I don't want to say lose the momentum, but slow down a little bit. I just really feel with that big of a cost increase from May to November, I would love to see us move forward in May. Have us get the information out weekly, daily, whatever it needs to be to provide that information to whoever wants to hear it, and give our community an opportunity to say yes or no. We're not going to know until we get out there and start hammering it home how they really feel. And again, I just think if we don't do it now, we're missing an opportunity that would continue to let us be fiscally responsible as we do this.
Two other things that we've just talked about within the administrative team is the aspect of one, that if as we push it back, that the buildings that are older, that there will be some potentially larger ticket items as far as maintenance, because they are kind of on that teetering edge. We maintain them, but you know, the really big ticket items, you're trying to hold that together because you're hoping for those larger dollars to go into the new construction facility. And then I also think when we were talking about, we listened to the voters from our previous bond issue, we really at that time felt that the community was saying that they wanted a larger impact. They wanted more grade levels touched, because that was a pre-K3 only. And I think what Mr. Pfister was really talking about, I think is one thing that we definitely have done. We now have addressed, and clearly we were not articulating that clearly. It's not that the 4 through 8 was being forgotten, it's just it was another phase. But at this point, we really have those areas meeting our 6 through 8 in a very good spot. The building is looking wonderful, and inside and out. And I actually think it impacts the climate of the building with the change. It is exciting. And then, of course, our 4-5 building will be addressed because of this renovation that will be occurring, and then also the new construction that will provide really classrooms with windows, which will be a huge asset.
I know one of our other concerns as a board was who was going to head up the levy campaign or the bond campaign. And I don't want to throw any names out there, but I think I have somebody that would be willing to step forward even for a May issue. So kind of getting that leadership in the position to do that.
That's huge.
Work. Right, and I think that was a big thing that we all kind of felt like, well, if we don't have somebody to do that, how are we going to wrap this all together?
Because we couldn't get anybody, we asked over a dozen people for the renewal.
Right.
And
that was very slow.
Nothing, we got nothing.
Well, yeah.
So, yeah. Slow or nothing, same thing.
Slow or nothing,
Yeah.
right.
So
I think
that's a big bonus.
yeah.
It's a lot of work.
And I think this person would be willing to stick with it, because Sam also brought up the high school bond took 3 times. And I think this person would be willing to stick with it and see it through.
How did the 3 building principals, Mrs. Barker, Mrs. Smith, and Mr. Vagatis, how do they feel, you know, this impacts their buildings? What's their schedule like as far as helping with the May ballot?
So ultimately, we had an instructional meeting that happened to actually fall on Tuesday, the 20th, and we met regarding that, and I was encouraged because as we were talking about just the importance of this, and that we're so pleased that the improvement levy had passed as strongly as it had, but now we really needed the involvement of particularly those buildings, those, and so they did provide me, all of them provide me with at least 2 to 3 names, and so whether those individuals may step forward to work within the committee or help as co-chair. But I've not reached out to any of those just as of yet, because that occurred and then we went right into, a Thanksgiving break, and I know today was a hectic day for everyone as they got back in sequence, but I do think that there's some momentum regarding that. Now, as far as them being committed to
Right,
it,
that's my question.
I think that their level of excitement is very positive and very strong, because ultimately, even once it's passed, it's going to take 2 full years for it to be constructed. So it's not an overnight piece, it is a process. And I think that any aspect that we can do to inch it forward will help, because of the time frame of when we're actually able to open the doors for our students.
So, well, let's summarize the master plan here. I mean, I feel like, we've talked about it, we're all familiar with it, but we're on TV, camera, whatever, and feel like we got to use this opportunity again to educate our citizens about what the overall plan is. And that's, we're talking about, in addition to LT Ball, there would be a pre-K through 5 building instead of a 4-5 building. Every student would be in a new classroom in this pre-K through 5. The current LT Ball, the configuration of the current building is going to change drastically. It will no longer be really a instruction center. It will be all of our other ancillary facilities, meaning our library, our cafeteria, our gymnasiums, our administration space for our principals and staff that's in that building. It would be some classroom place for music, for art, those kinds of things, but very little actual instruction facility in that building. Every child that's going through our district would be in a new classroom in the pre-K-5 addition that we would be adding on to that space. So it's a whole new look at our plan, our master facilities plan. We already addressed the concern with 6 through 8. This past summer, we've renovated that building. We've done the things that need to be done to make that building a viable building and instruction center for the next 25 years, 20, 25, 30 years. Knowing how we take care of buildings, it may be even longer than that. The high school is still a sound building. It's our newest building. And so while there'll be maintenance, and you just approved our permanent improvements, so we can continue maintenance there, that building will stay in place and be our 9 to 12 facility. So what we're talking about here is a addition, pre-K through 5, for all of our students to address those classroom needs. It also means that we would be eliminating the use of Broadway and eliminating the use of Nevin Copley. So those are sort of the overall plan that we need to make everyone understand and get out there, so that the questions about how we're addressing the future in this district, we have answers for. So I think that's important that we talk about that and make everyone aware. As far as this timeline, I'll start out with some comments on that. I feel like the $2 million, $3 million cost that we would be looking at as additional to wait till November is huge. We've struggled trying to keep the cost down. We've struggled with when to do this. And to me, here we are, we've been talking about trying to get OFCC funding. We've got an opportunity to get some of that funding and to use some of that funding to help to postpone the project and see it come up costing another $2 to $3 million. Just, again, I think is a poor a use of that money. So I am very much in favor of trying to do it early, provided we can get out there and get ahead of this and educate the community on what's going on. And that's a tall order that's got to be done. It's not something that, it's going to be tough. We started this, yes, back in February, talking about this and trying to get some information out. But we had some other priorities, being the permanent improvement, so we didn't focus on that. It's time now that if we're really going to go forward in May, we've got to spend a lot of time focused on this topic and educating the community, and also doing some more research about how this will all fit together. Because we still got some work to do on the plans. Overall, it's a sound plan, but traffic studies, traffic flow is a key part of it. Trying to make sure that we've got enough space for our cafeteria, and that area is also key to this. We know that it was going to be tight, so we've got to talk about that and make sure that we've accommodated that. The idea that we've got 300 more students coming in this district in another 10 years, that's huge. We've got to educate the community on that topic and let them know that, we're going to need this space if we have that many kids coming in. And that isn't our study, that's a study that's been done for us by professionals. So we're not making up these numbers. All of those things make sense to try and do this early. But $3 million or $2 million additional cost is sort of, to me, puts us over the top in moving forward.
Yeah, I think we owe it to our community to at least try. Because if we don't, I think that they're going to notice that, and we're going to kind of be held accountable to the fact that we didn't at least attempt a May bond.
Just a quick question for Gary on that. You mentioned the cost sets, and the way you described it, it's kind of implied that you can lock those in some way. I mean, it seems, just for a little more detail so we can explain it better to folks.
Sure. So each year the state OFCC Commission looks at the cost of construction, basically. And then they take an average of that, and they take their cost for heating, electrical, plumbing, and they say, well, we think in the next year we're going to start seeing these costs go this much higher. That usually happens in the April-May timeframe. There were a number of years where it was a zero, back in the 2011-12 as we're coming out of the recession. Over the last couple of years, they've seen a 1%, a 2%, 2.5% increase in these costs. If we wait until November, they're predicting that the costs are going to go even further than that. So if we pass in November, we're not going to be going out for our first bid package probably till May, April or May of the following year. So you're looking at, I'm going to say, a good 6 months of price increases. So we would be looking at using their new cost set, which is going to take our project and raise that cost by about 4%, 4 to 6% is what they're projecting.
That's because, but
it's the delay in the time.
Shopping later for this stuff.
Yes.
Pricing down.
Yes.
In the, what's that underground? I should know this because I sit on these meetings.
Shelter?
The shelter.
The storm
and that's
shelter.
1.2 million, and that happens in September.
Correct.
The storm
Right now,
shelter was
the
a
governor
big deal.
put a
Right.
hold on it.
Right.
And not sure what the new governor will do. If the new
Right.
governor will keep the hold, if he'll let it go through. But I know there was a lot of consternation from designers, engineers.
Oh yeah, we talked to Mike about that.
Yeah,
Where are
the
we
whole
going to put
cost
it?
of all of this.
And how big is it going to be?
Right.
And it's 1.2 million, but
At least.
now
So-
with 300 more students, it might be more than 1.2
Correct.
million. Because when we looked at the 1.2 million, it was before we had that 300 number.
Correct.
And I remember when we talked about this for quite a while.
Mhm.
So it could be 2 million. I mean, who knows? But
Yeah,
it's going to
exactly.
be more than 1.2.
Exactly.
Because there's 300 more kids to put in this
Yep. Exactly.
shelter. So
And the state will co-fund a portion of that. They give you an allowance of so much, but the allowance that they co-fund isn't what it's going to cost. I think the allowance is about $850,000,
right.
and we're looking at least 1.2 million. So there's at least 350,000 that we're on the hook for ourselves. That's not even co-fundable by
Yeah.
them.
So the only way to get around that 1.2 million
Is the pass
plus
in May.
is May, right? Because
Correct.
in September, then we're done. So
Yep.
okay,
Well,
that's
provided
key.
the governor doesn't extend. I mean,
Correct.
there's
Yeah,
some
right,
extent,
right. Yeah, he
but-
can extend, right.
Yep.
But going on the information we have now, it would have to
Correct.
pass in May.
Yes, ma'am.
Period. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. I'm a taxpayer too.
Yeah, well, yeah, we all are.
Yeah.
Part of the education that you mentioned, the public is also going to involve, as we always talk about, what's going to happen on the Broadway side. I think it's fair to say no one knows, and probably can't know before the May ballot, right? So I think we need to set those expectations that there's just no way we're going to know what's going to happen there. I mean, the most we can do is explain that we're committed to working with the community, with the city. I think there's talk about developing a committee to talk about recommendations on that, and so that people aren't assuming that we're just forgetting that issue.
Exactly.
I appreciate you bringing that up because we talked about that at the work session, the need for a community committee comprised of those that are interested in what might be some options and really opportunities for the Tipp community of how to, in a sense, refresh and renew that site, what it might serve. So I know that there's been several contacts that's been made. Everybody so far has seemed very interested and would like to participate. So that is something that once we know whether whether it's if it's May, you're right, we will not have the final word on that. There's much to be determined. But I do think looking and brainstorming about what are some options, what are some creative, positive options that can be done with that side, and involving our community in that.
Well, we had a meeting with City Council, and we discussed it at the school board and City Council, and we came up with some ideas. So we have started those conversations.
Yes.
So this isn't going to be, it's not going to blindside anybody.
Right.
We've already had these discussions, and we're going to be good stewards of the property. We're not going to do something with it that isn't going to make sense for the community. That's not our intention.
I agree. Just for the record, Tim Eccleston, the city manager today, said yes, he would make room in his schedule and he would work with us and we'd be happy to attend those sessions.
Right, because ultimately, like, we don't determine what
once
gets
we sell
developed
it,
there,
right.
once we sell it. So,
Right.
I mean, it really does have to be a partnership to make sure that the best interests for the community is taken care of.
I guess I was expecting tonight, and perhaps, maybe this is part of this discussion. I guess I'm disappointed not to hear, I guess, somewhat of a more comprehensive approach as to what we're going to do to address what I think are probably 7 things. So I heard you say you're going to be doing staff meetings, but what will be the process then to make sure that the information gathered from the staff meetings are then comprised someplace in a collective area where then those answers are then collected and published? Related to that, I think one of the interesting things that I know that is to many of our staff would be, what is the overall plan for attrition and reassignment and redistricting our resources so that we avoid layoff at all costs possible? And to me, that's a long-term plan because this is not a plan that would be implemented overnight. So we talk about community survey and engaging our community, but we don't really have an educational campaign or communication campaign outlined yet. And what's the point of having a survey if we don't have an approach of how we're going to tell people besides at this meeting and on our meeting on the 15th of what the plans and the details of those plans are, and where else are we going to share that information? So then also, the comprising of the Broadway engagement group, are we going to engage people who are living on the perimeter of the middle school, LT Ball and Devon Coppic? How do we engage that part of our community and those voters? And then I think that we had talked a little bit and probably need to revisit what are the options for paying off the high school, and then reviewing what property assets we have and how or if those will have any impact then on our decision. So that type of comprehensive, I just jotted those things down. There's probably others, but to me that seems to be the comprehensive information that we need to have all that information to then make a decision as to when we put it on the ballot. I appreciate the enthusiasm to put it on the ballot. I think we all want to do that, and as taxpayers, we all want to save the district money and our taxpayers' money. But I only want us to have one levy, or bond to put on, and so I want to make sure that we are pretty comprehensive in how we address all of these issues. And I think last time we talked about, leadership for this campaign, and I'm glad to hear that there might be some prospective folks. But I think we've even talked about, do we use a consultant, what are the options with that? So there seems to be a lot of factors that would help me in endorsing the idea.
So I'll kind of address a little bit with the communication with the staff. I know Mr. Sagone and I met today, and basically working through Quadrix, we're really creating a staff survey. And so actually the Quadrix company is assisting. It's kind of a, I'll call it, a supportive piece. We're learning all about the program and making it a very sound survey. And so they are really kind of guiding us through the process. So we actually have 2 sessions this week with them, which happen to be close at a webinar, but it's us and them, it's not groups. And so that's kind of exciting, and we really tried to look at different aspects. And it is something that we will reach out in our meetings as well, as Mr. Pfister and I and Mr. Stevens were out in the buildings, that as we're doing the communication with the staff, at the staff meetings, that as certain questions come up, if we see that, we'll definitely see about incorporating some of that into the survey so that we can get not just a particular building, but multiple staff members. What are some of their thoughts on that? Yes?
I guess I was not at the work session because I was out of town, so I don't know what happened at the work session. I don't know how long you guys were there, but to me it sounds like a lot of this stuff isn't like board meeting stuff. This should be handled at a separate meeting. That's A. B, we're educating the teachers. Only 20% of them live here. They're not voters. So because I missed the meeting, I guess I'm a little confused on a lot of things right now. And a lot of the things that Joellen asked, I understand where she's coming from. We need to be, educating the community because those are our voters. So, I mean, I'm very supportive of our staff. Everybody knows I am. They don't vote here.
Right.
So,
right.
So
my response,
I guess what are we trying to figure out with this survey? We've already got the plan, and this, to me, that's a separate meeting, because I don't want to be here for 4 hours discussing this. This is a board meeting. Maybe we need a separate meeting. I miss Monday.
I would just say, Mrs. Dunaway, that I think it's really important for us to have the support of the teaching staff, whether you live here
always.
or not.
I 100% agree with that.
They're going to be a lot of our on-the-ground boots
For sure
in
they
this
are.
campaign.
Yep.
And so if they're not buying into the project and the ideas and thinking they're being listened to.
You answered my question. I was trying to figure out what we were doing. So what we're doing right now with this Qualtrics is we're trying to get teacher buy-in.
Well,
I just missed the point of what we were doing.
The primary goal is really to get teacher insight. What is it that they know? What are their priorities? What are their concerns?
With the new building design?
With the new building designs and how we approach it,
Gotcha.
so that it's included from the ground level as we're really identifying all the pieces.
Okay, because I sit on that other committee with the 3 of us and Sam and Dr. Cohn. So I just missed that piece of what we're trying to figure out. I don't want to just be wasting. We don't have time to waste.
I hear you.
And I know we're not time wasters, but I just want to make sure that we're not spinning our wheel. That's all I want to do.
I agree.
Okay.
I just think there's such an important piece to this process.
That the teachers are very important. They talk to the staff. They talk to kids.
Yes.
I mean, they are the face of the district. I get that.
And it's not like we pass the bond and then we start shoveling the next day. I mean, if we're talking about building space and designing spaces,
absolutely,
we make those choices.
Right. We're pretty far along in that. I mean, Mike has done a wonderful job of designing the space.
Right. I really, I understand your concern that some of these questions right now are more like campaign committee questions more than board meeting, but I do kind of feel like, I don't want to miss that May opportunity to say to the public, we're really trying to save you $3 million.
Right. You know? I guess my point is what we're trying with the agenda item of facilities discussion. What are we trying to do? Are we voting tonight on We're not.
So let me make a couple more comments.
Okay.
First of all, we just met a week ago.
Yeah, last Monday.
And there was a holiday in there. So I want to defend the staff a little bit. I don't think they had time to put together all of this comprehensive plan that is being asked about. So, we need to give them time. But we wanted to have another discussion here tonight just to get some more information. I've been working with Mr. Stevens about the funding at the high school and some things like that. I presented another idea to him today to look at and see if there's a way to try and help with the funding of this and do some things creatively with the high school bond issue rolling off and how we might structure some payments or debts with that. So they're gonna need some time. I mean, but this was an opportunity to have some discussion on a TV camera in front of our public.
Okay.
Last one was a workshop, so this is one of the reasons we're having this discussion tonight. And why we don't have all the answers is we just met a week ago. So I just want to make sure that, you know, if we have more things that we need from the staff to help us make that decision, and I've sort of told the staff that, you know, the next 3 weeks, that prior to the December meeting, which is when we will have to make a decision, we will be on the ballot if for May, we'll have to make that decision. Our Friday board updates need to have some of these answers to some of these questions or education processes that we plan to put in place to help us support a decision or recommendation from our administration in December. So I think this is a process. I think that tonight was just one more step in that process to give us all an opportunity to talk about this together and see where things are and if we need additional things. We talked about a number of things that we wanted at the workshop. There may be some new things that we said we're going to sleep on it for a week. If there's some new things that we want, we let the administration know. And there's no reason you can't let the administration know in the next 3 weeks. I mean, we could all pick up the phone or drop an email to Dr. Kump, to Mr. Stevens or Mr. Pfister and say, hey, have you thought about this? I mean, we can do those kinds of things to help us get comfortable with either May or November. So I would encourage that discussion to happen.
So one thing I will say is that I do need to let Paul Brown, which is with OFC, I need to let him know tomorrow if he is preparing a packet for December.
There's a packet, it's called a NOCA, that you got five would have to approve on December 17th, and you need several weeks to get that prepared and get into your hands prior to the meeting. So we're looking for some direction. That's why the discussion, we left last Monday night. I know Dave and I were, I wouldn't say frustrated, but just more down. And we spent Tuesday morning talking that we felt we were missing an opportunity because we kind of got the impression we were going to wait till November. And so we talked and talked and talked and really went to Greta and said, we think we can do this now. Let's go. And so the discussion point tonight is we really want to go in May.
Right.
And Mrs. Heller, I love your questions. And I love being able to sit here and say, I think of those 7 points, there's been some discussion already around some of those 7 points, nothing that we're ready to share. But we have hit on every single one of those, whether it's Mr. Stevens and myself, the three of us, Mr. Sagona. There has been a lot of discussion. So it's not like we're starting fresh, but I love hearing that you're on top of that and holding our feet to the fire on that, because that's important for us as well. So.
Right. I just want to have the confidence that all of those points are being addressed, and there's probably more. That was just what I was jotting down, and that's, I guess, as a big picture thinker, that's kind of comprehensive report I would have liked to have. I do recognize we have not had a lot of time since this discussion, but you're asking for our support of your project to move forward.
It's our project as a district.
Mm-hmm. It is our project, but you're going to have to do much of this work.
Yes, we are.
Our job is then to help the community understand the importance of why voting for this is so vital. I want to have the confidence that all of these things are being addressed so that it's successful the first time it passes.
And that is our goal. I'd love to pass the first time, and
wouldn't that be
hopefully we do.
awesome?
Yeah,
but we have to be prepared as well.
Well, I want to be realistic
as
that there's a
Mrs.
lot
Dahl
to do.
said, you know, it may not go the first time. We've got to have somebody that's here for the duration to see us through, because these needs aren't going away. If we can pass in May, we could be in 2 years. If we don't pass till November, it's probably 3 years before we get in because of the time frame. So 2022 versus 2023 is huge.
Yeah, when you're talking about Broadway and Kopic and the big ticket items that are sort of looming in the background with those buildings, it is a year is a very big deal.
It is.
It's a very big deal I mean, the cost associated with that is going to pay for our shelter.
I wanted to add a couple of things that Sam you can speak to them, or anybody can speak to them, is that we would be increasing our present capacity at LT Ball from, 400 students, moving up to 1,200 students if we move forward with this. That the plan includes no swing space, so we would have savings related to having to displace students from any of those spaces. And we could probably say a little bit more about the 35% and how that's applied, meaning that the project would go in a couple of phases because, right? And then the no LFI. I probably can't speak eloquently to that, but someone needs to mention those.
Tonight, what you kind of need from us is a temperature gauge.
Yes.
Because we have to have this report.
Yes.
That's right.
By tomorrow.
Right.
By tomorrow, yeah, so if you want to know which way I'm leaning, I think
it's May.
May, absolutely. I don't know how we could say to our community that we didn't at least try.
Right, to save $3 million.
Yeah, that's huge, that's huge.
That's a very important piece to me as well.
That's a big number.
It is a significant number, and I think out of fairness to our community, they need the opportunity to say that, yes, we want to save and we want stronger, newer, more current facilities that are going to last for and be there for our students. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So would you say that this is a recommendation of your whole administrative team? I mean, you mentioned about the principals, but I would ask, I mean, do you feel like there's buy-in of your administrative team
in your meeting
in the leadership to carry these things out?
I would say that there's a significant amount of confidence in the amount that's been invested by, whether that's Mr. Stevens, myself, Mr. Pfister, and Mr. Sagoni. He's been right there in the wings helping us with these presentations, so he knows it kind of inside and out as well, because, you know, putting all that together. And I think that at the building level, they were right for it when we went before. It was just a time when, as a district, we were going through some change. But as far as the need, I mean, that's one of the things that's so difficult. You go out, whether it's August 20th or whether it's September 15th, and sometimes even October 10th, and it can be sweltering in those rooms. And then it ends up, we have a change in the weather, and now we're with some snowflakes, and people forget how uncomfortable it is in those rooms. And there are young children that are coming there, and teachers that are exhausted at the end of the day because we do not have adequate facilities. We don't, some rooms would have as many as 5 fans in them.
Can't hear.
And you can't hear, and then we have to watch about the amount of electricity. If you have every room with 5 fans, then it can't support that either. I mean, the list goes on and on, but it's why sometimes I think if we could only have our bond issue, you know, September 20th, you know, people would really know and understand, because, I mean, the news comes out and wants to interview you. What are you doing about this for the students? I mean, but then we get in today's weather, and it just seems like it's so far in the distance, we forget about it, but it's very, very real. The thing that we'll soon be finding is we'll have some rooms that will have ice almost in the inside of their windows, and there'll be others that they'll be feeling a bit warm, because we're trying to keep it as warm as possible, but it's just not even heat.
Right. So I would say amongst administrative staff, it's 100%.
Okay. Oh, good. That's great.
I would say, thinking back to 2004 when we made the last time we redistricted, there's still some territorial concerns when you bring buildings together, and that's something that's going to have to be worked through and addressed. I think Heather was part of that process then, where we had transition teams made up of reps from the different buildings, planning how we're going to move forward with that. So there's a lot of that that's going to happen, because there are, you know, we want to be with the Broadway teachers, we want to be with the LT teachers. That's going to be there, and we're going to have to find ways to work through that and bring everybody on board together as well. So.
We just need to do like on Survivor. Everybody drop their buffs. We're one team now. Right? We just get like Survivor buffs, Tipp buffs. You're getting 1 buff.
Just saying.
We're getting 1 buff. Right? 1 buff.
We are Tipp buff, I believe.
Once you join on Survivor, you're one team, and then you're done. There's no more special teams. But I mean, it sounds simple, but really that's what we need to. It's really not.
So what do we do now, Sam? Do we?
Well, I mean,
Give our recommendation to go ahead and have this report, or what do we do?
Well, 'cause
I'm hoping that Dr.
Kumpf
Kumpf has felt the pulse of this board based on the conversations that we've had and knows the direction to tell OFCC what to do. You know, we will have the final decision in December, and you know, things could change, and you know, I think they understand that. Hopefully OFCC understands that, but I think they've got enough information to press on and take us to December for that decision.
Thank you.
Okay, old business, that's the last item, unless someone has anything else for old business.
I only have one item. We had a gentleman who came and addressed the board a couple months ago about the West Edge issue related to property owners in that district, and I just wanted to know, has anybody formally responded to him?
So Mr. Logan is his name, and I do have contact information. I did try, but with the holidays, I was not able to reach him. And his telephone number and his information is right there on my desk. So that is a high priority for this week, to see if I can connect with him. And I want to invite him to be part of that team with the Nevin Copic community, as well as the LT Ball, because that's kind of there together as we're working, because we'll have one group, in a sense, with different needs and for our Broadway, what's going to happen with that site, but we'll have some other things that I'm sure that the community there at Nevin and Broadway,
Sure.
so I'm at LT Ball, so I will be inviting him to see if he'd like to be part of that group and let him know we heard him.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, moving forward with new business, if there's no other old business. First item, Dr. Kumpf, you want to lead us through this?
All right, we are going to move right through this. Item A, leave of absence. Approval of a medical leave of absence for Paula Koopman, typically middle school secretary, for a period of 1 year as of November 23rd, 2018.
Need a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Teresa and Corinne. Discussion, comments? Hearing none, call roll.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that in her leave of absence, just want to make sure that we get a quality person, not just to answer the phones, because I know that in our buildings, those, especially the middle school, those 3 women all do they do more than just answer the phones.
Yes.
So we don't want to put the burden on Mrs. Gross and Mrs. Stinger. I don't know how hard it is to fill that position, but I just feel like it can't be, I hate how our tables are set up. It can't be a person that just answers the phones. It needs to be a person that can pitch in and do at least some of what Mrs. Koopman was doing.
Right.
Because that's a long time for Mrs. Gross and Mrs. Stinger to be doing 1.5 jobs. So I just want to bring that up, that's all I have to say.
And I agree with you.
Okay.
That in every building, the offices are extremely busy, and there are some very important
Right. There's a lot of stress.
skills
Dealing with all that.
and
Yeah.
daily activities that those individuals help us accomplish to keep our buildings running smoothly.
And they do a great
As well as
job.
support for the administration in the building, as well as the teachers. So we are having it posted, and ultimately looking for someone that brings some experience to it and knowledge of the middle school.
Right.
And we also have a very active substitute list, and some of them may very well have interest because often they substitute in the same building, and the building, they get to know the building, the staff. So hopefully they bring that to the interview process, and we're able to find a good fit.
Yeah, this isn't like 2 weeks, this is.
Yes, exactly.
We
This
need
will be
a person
finishing
who's
the
gonna
year
pitch
out.
in and do at least some of what she was doing. That's all.
So just to share with my peers, spoke to Dave this morning about this issue. There really aren't any policies that I could find that really address disability leave or the procedures for that. I understand that this is a STRS issue.
Sirs.
Did I say STRS? STRS?
Yes, STRS,
So anyway, to me, I looked at the FMLA policy. There's not really anything that talks about what's expected. You know, we work with Neola for policies, and there's really nothing that even really touches this topic. And that I understand through Dave, this may be a unique situation, but it seems like if someone else was seeking this information, it should be able to be accessed and probably linking it to the other policies for which it relates.
So, Mr. Stevens, just tell me, if someone was in a situation, we have had other individuals that have had difficult medical situations that happen on disability in our district. Is that usually they sit and do, for example, a conference with you and your department? That's what occurs?
Normally, if somebody's going to be out for an extended period of time, we start the FMLA process. That's normally how things go, and then if it gets worse, we'll see people go out on extended leaves of absence where they're using their sick leave because they have to. They have a medical need for that. And once they go past that 12 weeks, the FMLA covers their position, and their position is no longer covered, but we have where, I may be speaking out of turn, I believe that we can just bring somebody back in. It might not be in the same position, teaching the same class, but we can bring them back into the district. But they use their sick leave. We had a teacher that this happened to. Now this is STRS. We had this happen to a teacher. She used all of her sick leave. And then the board placed her on a leave of absence, and then she finally went through STRS disability. This situation, the FMLA wasn't done, and the STRS disability was already approved.
And I want to caution us not to go into any details related to this case.
But just
to me, the issue is not about this person. It's about how do we access that information in our district through our policy manual.
So, well, FMLA is not necessarily a policy as
It's
a federal requirement.
Right. We have all that outlined in our policies, but it doesn't link anything to the short-term or long-term disability.
Like, just as an example, like a difference would be where I work now, they have a policy that for FMLA family, if I wanted to take 2-year leave, they would guarantee my position for 2 years. That's their policy because it's above and beyond what FMLA requires, so they have a policy addressing that. But I think that unless you have something specific in your district, you're expected to follow the laws. I think this is a great example of where an HR, I hate beating that to death, but an HR would be so
we need HR.
Right, would be so helpful for our teachers, for our staff as they go to navigate things like FMLA and disability and where they fall and how we're going to work together. Right.
I've got all the answers from my discussion with Dave. I just wanted to share with you all the concern that you're absolutely right, Corinne. It's just that we don't have anything that sort of even mentions that I could find about short-term or long-term disability benefits and the process to access either one of those.
Do you think that we should really work with Neola and see if across all the things that they do, because they serve in multiple states, do they have a disability policy?
Well, I'm surprised they don't.
Maybe
I just couldn't find something in our.
I think I looked to say that they follow the federal regulations.
I think that's what I would say, but at least maybe it would refer to, or maybe it would even say within the policy to reach out to particular contact people. Much like a compliance officer, it just says who to contact within the district. Maybe this would be who to contact if you have questions regarding that, because I do think that it's uncharted territory.
STRS says is what you do. That's what the policy would say.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm gonna sort of do a little point of order and try and bring us back to the motion at hand. I mean, the policy discussion was a great discussion, but I think we need to get back to the motion at hand here and approving the leave of absence. So, any more discussion on that topic? Good call, roll.
We're ready for the vote.
Mrs. Dunaway.
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl.
Yes.
Mrs. Heatherly.
Yes.
Mr. Spano.
Yes.
Mr. Venters.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
All right, item B, approval of the following educational upgrade retroactive back to the beginning of 2018-19 contract start. And this would be for Kristen Marsh.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Joanne and Teresa, any discussion or comments?
Did we miss her? in our,
Yes, she had an upgrade in her education.
and we didn't, Mr.
Right, well, we approved most of these in August or September, and we missed this one when we were going through, so.
Right.
No other questions? Call roll, please.
Mrs. Heatherly?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunaway?
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl?
Yes.
Mr. Spano?
Yes.
Mr. Venters?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
All right. Item C, approval for the following certified teachers to also be home instruction tutors as per the agenda.
I'll move.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion, comments? Hearing none, please call roll.
Mrs. Dahl?
Yes.
Mr. Venters?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunaway?
Yes.
Mrs. Heatherly?
Yes.
Mr. Spano?
Yes, that motion is approved.
Item D, approval to hire Luke Zirkle for the long-term substitute position for AYA Social Studies at Tippecanoe High School.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
We've got a motion and a second, Joellen and Corinne. Any discussion or comments?
When it says long-term, is that end of the school year?
Yes,
Okay,
in this
great.
case.
Thank you.
No other discussion, call roll, please.
Mrs. Heatherly?
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunaway?
Yes.
Mr. Spano?
Yes,
Mr. Venters?
Yes.
motion is approved.
Item E, approval of the following substitute positions for the 2018-19 school year, pending proper certification and paperwork as per the agenda.
Need a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second, Andy and Corinne. Any discussion or comments?
These are additions, of course, to our list, and we welcome them. We're moving into that busy cold flu season, so it will be great to have additional assistance.
Call roll, please.
Mr. Venters?
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunaway?
Yes.
Mrs. Heatherly?
Yes.
Mr. Spano?
Yes, that motion is approved.
Item F, approval to have the following building supplemental positions for the 2018-19 school year, pending verification of proper certification and paperwork as per the agenda.
Motion?
I'll make a motion. Second?
A motion and a second, Joellen and Teresa. Any discussion or comments? Hearing none, call roll, please.
Mrs. Heatherly?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunaway?
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl?
Yes.
Mr. Spano?
Yes,
Mr. Venters?
Yes.
motion is approved.
Item G, approval to employ the following for athletic services for the 2018-19 school year, Nancy Murray.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second, Teresa and Corinne. Any discussion?
Once again, this is an addition to our list.
Call roll, please.
Mrs. Dunaway?
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Heatherly?
Yes.
Mr. Spano?
Yes,
Mr. Venters?
Yes.
motion is approved.
Item H, approval of the gifted plan for the 2018-19 school year, and we have an attachment with that.
Need a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second, Andy and Corinne. Any questions or comments?
This is a yearly update. This is something that's submitted to the state of Ohio, and then we also have it on our website for information.
Any other discussion?
Is there any change?
The only change is that iReady is used as one of the indicators of giftedness, which is something new that was added to the state.
iReady?
Yes, it was on a vendor list, and we happen to have it.
You
but-
done iReady?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
More words, what's that mean?
I have
It
not even
doesn't-
gonna comment.
It doesn't assess IQ.
Okay,
Well, but
first of all, a
not-
cat can
it does
do
not- it's-
iReady. I mean,
it's
I'm
just
sorry.
reading and math, reading
But
and
the-
math, not IQ. not IQ.
Okay, because, I mean, most kids put their earbuds on and have it on their computer, and when the little thing dings for the
Well, it is-
question, they run to the question.
It's only the assessment portion which is done at school, not the intervention part and the reinforcement part.
Okay, because you know what I'm talking about, the
Yeah,
iReady that
I
the
know
kids do?
exactly what you're talking about.
I don't even see the point in that. No, I mean, the kids put their earbuds on, they go do other things, come back to it, answer the questions. Parents complain about it all the time. If you've ever done it.
For what it's worth, I don't have a cat, so.
Oh, okay. My cat does really well. And I love it. She's a rock star.
So what you're saying is the addition of this assessment.
Needed to be within the plan because it is something we have
So it was added to
available.
the plan,
Yeah.
yes, and it's not an option, if you have, it's there.
Okay, so it's a compliance
Yes.
issue, but is there anything that else is happening differently within the district to address this area? Improve this area?
Teachers are being trained with, to be gifted indoors, not, they aren't gifted interventions specialists, GISs, but they are getting 30 hours, that's mandatory also. So we have lots of ways for them to get it. Some are going to training, some of them are doing it with an online
Right.
portion
So they
that
have
we
multiple years
approved
to
earlier.
do that.
Yeah, the 30 hours started
Right.
last year. That was
Yes.
a change, okay.
That was a change, correct, last year.
Right, gotcha.
With the new gifted regulations. So those are things we're doing. And trying to find more creative ways to service. And each year we try to add new ways to do that. Scheduling becomes a difficult thing sometimes,
Yeah, I
but
bet it
I think we're doing a really good job. Middle school has some innovative things that they're doing this year, looking to do a few more things next year. High school has rigorous courses that they can take. Elementary, it's a lot of differentiation in the classroom.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Call roll, please.
Mr. Venters?
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunaway?
Yes.
Mrs. Heatherly?
Yes.
Mr. Spano?
Yes, that motion is approved.
Item I, approval to accept $2,020 in grant dollars from the Miami County Foundation. That would be for Broadway Elementary, Ohio Caverns, as well as Tiffany Middle School, Power of the Pen.
I'll move.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Corinne and Teresa. Any comments or questions? Say thank you.
Yes,
Miami
absolutely.
County Foundation.
Yeah, it's great.
Call roll, please.
Mrs. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunaway?
Yes.
Mrs. Heatherly?
Yes.
Mr. Spano?
Yes.
Mr. Venters?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Item J, approval to accept $240 in grant dollars from the STEM boosters for math counts interest fees.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second from Teresa and Joellen. Any discussion or comments?
No, but Steam Boosters does that every single year, so that's very, very nice of them.
It is.
So I can't remember them ever not doing that.
Call roll, please.
Mrs. Dunaway?
Yes.
Mrs. Heatherly?
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl?
Yes.
Mr. Spano?
Yes.
Jumping the gun. Mr. Venters?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Item K, approve the acceptance of the following donation, $500 general fund from 1888 Ohio COP.
Motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Joellen and Teresa. Any questions or comments?
I'll just indicate that the money is going to be utilized K through 5 for coats and winter wear that our children need. And this is once again, very generous donation. But they would like to know specifically what it's going to be used for.
So is this something that we apply for? How do we?
This is a vendor that we use for BWC, and they just ask all their districts if there's any need that we might have that they can help with. Last year, they provided money for the Dare Lion costume, helped provide money for that. So every year they reach out and just say, hey, is there anything you guys could use some money for?
That's nice.
We hook them up with Galen and Kim or Carrie, and they come up with something.
Right. All right, thank you. So I guess thank you is in order as well to them.
Too tall for the Dare Lion.
Any other questions or comments? Call roll, please.
Mrs. Heatherly?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunaway?
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl?
Yes.
Mr. Spano?
Yes.
Mr. Venters?
Yes.
That motion is approved.
All right, item I, or L, we'll go L, approve the acceptance of the following donation, $500 to start the new free reading library at Tippecanoe High School. And this is from the Dunaway Foundation.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second, Joellen and Corinne. Thank you, Teresa
Teresa.
And family.
and family.
So free reading, this is like books kids want.
Well, yeah, they've noticed that you and I have talked about that. So a way to get kids interested in reading again is let them read books that they want to read. So the high school teachers did a great job of asking the kids, what kind of books do you want to read or what's going to excite you? And I forget, they bought a lot of books. I could not believe how many books they bought for $500.
Oh,
Half
they
price.
probably went through Scholastic or?
No, I did half price books
Oh,
because it's
yeah.
so affordable,
Yeah.
and they were thrilled.
Thank
So,
you.
You're welcome.
And we've partnered with the Tipp City Public Library for resources as well.
I don't know anything about that.
I know they do book collections.
I mean, they
a
go
lot,
there, but
particularly
kids
our
can go there
elementary
if they
do
want.
quite a
Sure.
bit of book
This was just
collections.
after high school, so it's easily
Accessible.
accessible.
They might have some affordable ways to access books as well.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they do. Yeah, maybe online stuff. This was just physical books to grab at the high school while you're there
No, I
that you want to
understand.
read, yeah.
Ready to vote?
Yes.
Call roll, please.
Mrs. Heatherly?
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunaway?
Yes.
Mr. Spano?
Yes.
Mr. Venters?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Item M, approval to contract with Bruns General Contracting to clear and grade the property adjacent to the practice fields at the high school for a cost not to exceed $12,350.
I'll move.
Second?
So we got a motion and a second, Corinne and Andy.
So is this the field that's like currently corn?
Yeah, so what this is on that eight acres we bought behind the practice fields, 3 acres of it is wooded and
Right.
brush. It's to clear that 3 acres and put it in the same condition as the rest of the field.
So more like more practice fields out there?
No, right now we have a farmer that farms it.
Okay.
But the thought process is, as we move forward with a potential bond issue, is if we pass, we're gonna move our bus garage.
Yes.
And we're looking at that location for our bus
Isn't that
garage.
an awesome idea?
And so if we can get this cleared now using our current funds and not have to add it to the bond issue, it's just one more item that is taken care of now.
Fiscally responsible.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're gonna get this passed in May, look at you.
I'm trying.
You keep getting the plugs in, I like that, Gary.
Don't forget the tennis court.
And Bruns
Tennis courts is going up there too, so.
It's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, the price is very cheap.
Yeah, we had 4 quotes. When we first started talking about it a couple of years ago after we bought the property, you know, I had one person say, you'll be lucky to get it done for under 6 figures. So we were kind of just shy about doing it. And so this past summer, one of our vendors said, hey, let me give you a quote on this. And he said, well, we're not looking to do it, so let me give you a quote. Well, he came in with a price, we're like, whoa, okay.
Can I write the check today?
Well, then we said, well, let's see what else we can get. So we opened it up to some of our other vendors, and Bruns actually came in and cut the low bid in half.
Yeah, they were.
So they look at it as a partnership with us and wanted to help us out as
Thank
much
you,
as possible.
Bruns. That's awesome.
Any other questions or comments? Call roll, please.
Mrs. Dahl?
Yes.
Mr. Venters?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunaway?
Yes.
Mrs. Heatherly?
Yes.
Mr. Spano?
Yes. That motion is approved.
Item N, approval of focused intervention K through 12 memorandum of understanding. And we have an attachment.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second, Joellen and Corinne. Any comments or questions?
Well, I'll start off. I appreciate our work with TCEA and Mrs. Junker. We have compiled a memorandum of understanding that would allow our teachers that volunteer to do this to work with students that need extra support for being successful in particularly the variety of situations, but we're looking largely at state testing situations where they have the ability to retake a test. So, for example, if there's a fall examination, then there's a spring examination, that they would be able to have extra support during that time and hopefully raise their mark and be more successful. And so that would include end-of-course examinations as well, for those that need that extra support, which impacts high school graduation of earning the credits. Mr. Veerhoff, anything you want to add to that?
Well, I think the unique thing with this is that let's say a student last year took Algebra 1, didn't meet the 3 points for Algebra 1, and needs to retake here in the fall. They're not in that course this fall. And so we need to have some time where we're able to provide some remediation and provide some tutoring and things like that to be able to help them. And what we have found in the last 2 years is that if we put that outside the school day, we can't get kids to attend. Mm-hmm. So what we've looked at doing is pulling them out of their study hall 2 days a week and doing that within the school day. And we've got an online platform that we've been able to do through Graduation Alliance and the Montgomery County ESC that really helps provide that support along with the teacher.
So this says on a voluntary basis, but is it kind of like a voluntold basis? I mean, are you looking for math people to tutor math kids? I'm assuming.
Yes, but it's still volunteer. If we can't get a math teacher, then we're going to find
You're going to open it up to anybody because it's an online platform, so you don't need an academic specific.
We need supervision, but we also need that certified person in the room that can provide some support if needed. Now, it's not just all math students in the room at that time. So, yeah, but that is a great question, because if we could get it to where we had all the math students in one room, that would be great, but that becomes a little more difficult.
And as you notice, it says K through 12. So the third grade reading guarantee is a very important piece. And the ability for some of our families to have an early drop-off or an after-school is a hardship for them. So once again, there may be the opportunity for someone to provide them extra support during the school day. And this could happen at any grade level.
So do you have any concerns from your teachers about the fairness of this? Do people
No,
feel
not at all. No.
Okay.
They all can volunteer, and I'm sure at the high school it's more of a first come first serve. Who emails him first about, and the people that I've talked to so far have been wonderful. They understand. They've read through the memo of understanding as well. They understand what their responsibilities are and the details of it too. So no issue at all.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
All right. Ready to call roll?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Stevens?
Mrs. Heatherly?
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunaway?
Yes.
Mr. Spano?
Yes.
Mr. Venters?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Item O, completion of second read of Neola's suggested policies and guideline updates. Approval of the new revised deleted policies and guidelines as presented in the October board meeting.
I'll move.
Second. The motion and second. Corinne, myself. Any discussion?
I noticed that there's not an attachment here, and I would have done that. I would have asked that to be done. I did not realize that wasn't there for us.
Well, we did it last time, and
Yes.
a big part of it was the nepotism one. That was a big change.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we've had the attachment before.
Yeah. I just apologize for
Oh,
that.
don't worry.
It's still
We've had it.
Yes.
We've had it. You just go back to the previous board doc one.
Mhm.
It's right there.
Any other questions or comments? Call roll, please.
Mrs. Dahl?
Yes.
Mr. Spano?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunaway?
Yes.
Mrs. Heatherly?
Yes.
Mr. Venters?
Yes.
That motion is approved. That
Thank you.
concludes new business. Our next regular board meeting is scheduled for Monday, December 17th at 6:30. There's no other meetings on the agenda, no other announcements. So next item on the agenda is an executive session for the purposes authorized under Board of Education Policy 0166 and Ohio Revised Code 121.22, letter G1, to consider the employment of a public employee or official. Need a motion for that purpose.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second from Andy and Teresa. Call roll, please.
Mr. Venters?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunaway?
Yes?
Mrs. Dahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Heatherly?
Yes.
Mr. Spano?
Yes, and motion is approved. I do not anticipate any action as a result of this executive session. We will take a 5-minute recess and continue to meet in this room.
Corinne, you gonna race me or can I go?